Welcome back to the BlackTrack, where I do commentary and review on movies with an all-black cast, or at least a black lead. Today's movie is Dope, a 2015 movie that was written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa, the same guy who wrote and directed The Wood. It's not a direct sequel to The Wood technically, but if you remember on the last BlackTrack, I mentioned that The Wood is part of a cinematic universe, and if you've never seen The Wood or Dope, you might be a little confused by that statement. But stick with me, and it'll all make sense in a minute. Dope tells the story of Malcolm, a high school senior living in Inglewood, California, who's obsessed with 90s culture. He's played by Shameik Moore of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse fame, and he and his two friends Jib, played by Tony Revolori, and Diggy, played by Kiersey Clemens, are considered outcasts in their neighborhood because they don't fit into any social category. They're somewhat nerds or geeks. They have their own band, and they're somewhat smart. The nerve of them. So they aren't completely accepted by anybody. They stick together as they navigate life in a crime-riddled neighborhood, and I really like the concept. Most of these types of movies have main characters who are at least somewhat interested in the negative stuff going on in their environment, but in Dope, the main characters don't care at all about being a part of a gang or any type of criminal activity. It's a story from a different and often underutilized perspective, one I can resonate with, as I myself has always been considered kind of a geek. The style of the movie is top-notch also, with it taking on a 90s theme to coincide with Malcolm's obsession. It's filled with 90s rap music, 90s clothes, and 90s references. And since that's my favorite decade ever, you know I'm all for that. Rick Famuyiwa even said that he picked that decade to focus on because he believes it to be the best decade ever for hip-hop music and culture. Who can argue with him? Dope came out a whole 16 years after The Wood. Did it win audiences over with that same youthful charm as that movie? Let's BlackTrack and find out. No breaking up the fourth wall in this movie, and I'm happy to report that Dope takes place in only one time period. Well, two technically I guess, if you count all the 90s references. Malcolm officially has the coolest room ever seen on the BlackTrack because it kinda reminds me of my room when I was a teenager. The VHS tapes makes me especially nostalgic because I still have VHS tapes to this day filled with 90s music videos. Can't wait to spring them on my kids one day. It would probably be more impressive in Malcolm's world if it wasn't 2015. In this world, he's retro as hell and stands out like a sore thumb. Which is kind of funny when you think about it, because not too long after this movie was made, a lot of those 80s and 90s styles really took off with the late 2010s generation. But in Dope, we aren't there yet. Malcolm and his friends, Diggy and Jib, are what passes for stereotypical nerds in this movie. And I like the fact that the movie goes out of its way to list things that are considered white people shit. It's kind of funny looking at the list because growing up, I was accused of liking white people shit, but literally only 2 things on this list apply to me. I guess it's not that comprehensive. My list looks more like this. I do kind of take issue with the fact that they're weak as hell though. Like I get it, they're social outcasts, but I think this was a great opportunity to drop the trope of geeks and nerds also being pushovers. Because I'll be damned if I'm gonna stand there and let a dude take my shoes off my feet. You're gonna have to rock bottom me or something first because ain't no way in hell. One of the bullies is Lakeith Stanfield, 1 year before the TV show Atlanta made him a household name, and 2 years before Get Out. Also, I gotta kinda laugh at the fact that the same year he was in Dope, he also played Snoop Dogg in Straight Outta Compton, and everybody talked about how bad he was miscast. What a difference a year makes.
Look, what the fuck, motherfucker? Hands off me, man. Don't think I'm gonna beat your ass, Marquise. I came up with your daddy. You better ask him about Stacy and see what's what around this motherfucker.
That's right, Stacy from The Wood got his life together and became a security guard at the high school. I think this is one of the coolest cameos ever to tie 2 movies together, because not only does it kind of mirror DeAndre Bond's real life struggles, but it also stays true to his character in The Wood, since he's kind of impartial to the underdog kids with heart. Plus, he's still the same old Stacy.
Good luck, little man.
Unfortunately, that's the only cameo that we're gonna get from The Wood, which is kind of a shame, but I get it. This is a totally different movie. Aside from the constant threat of getting your shoes and even your bike stolen, you gotta deal with drug dealers who call you out for being a poser and educate you on the history of hip hop.
You know, the 90s was, it's like the golden age of hip hop. Everything from It Takes a Nation of Millions to The Blueprint was killing it.
It Takes a Nation came out in '88. Blueprint came out 2001. What the fuck are you talking about right now?
This guy's named Dom, and he would know because he's played by rapper A$AP Rocky. Malcolm has nothing to worry about though, because Dom only wants him to go up to a girl and tell her he wants to talk to her. You know, that old "my friend thinks you're cute" gag. Nakia, played by Zoe Kravitz, likes a more assertive man though, especially one that's willing to help her with getting her GED.
You should work inside out. The stuff in the brackets first, and then square this up.
It's cool that the movie never blatantly points out the fact that Nakia is getting a GED. It's all in the subtle clues. It's like I always say, it's always better when a movie shows you what it wants to say instead of outright telling you. That little bit of math wizardry gets Malcolm invited to a party. That and the fact that Dom appreciated the fact that he got Nakia to go to the party also. Hey, he doesn't know that he technically cock-blocked, but he just said talk to her. He didn't say anything about what. Besides, you have bigger problems. Everybody knows there's only two ways out of the drug game: jail or the grave. And these guys chose the grave. Damn, Tiger, you got declawed. And ASAP, you better get out of there ASAP. In the ruckus, Malcolm goes out of his way to grab his book bag, which, by the way, why the fuck did you even bring that? Did you plan on getting some studying done? What you should have been studying was Nakia, and thankfully, you're in touch enough with your hormones to save the damsel in distress before you escape. Come with me, fair maiden. And he also builds up enough courage to ask her to the prom. She says she'll think about it, but that's okay. You could just continue to let her take advantage of you until she passes her GED test. It's all good. At least that'll give you the opportunity to get new jack-off material. This movie is too real. Turns out that unnecessarily bringing a book bag to a drug party has unintended consequences. Weather-related consequences, because it's snowy as hell in Malcolm's bag. Last night at the party, Dom stashed his drugs and a gun inside Malcolm's bag right before the place got raided. Now Malcolm and his friends are left with the decision of what to do with all this weight. This is a heavy situation. Putting non-street savvy teenagers in a drug-related situation that they have no idea how to handle is a cool and unique twist, because usually these type of characters would know exactly what to do, but Dope totally flips the genre and makes these characters clueless as hell to this lifestyle. So clueless, in fact, that they almost get killed for pure ignorance when a stranger calls the cell phone requesting that they bring the drugs to him and just pretend this little mishap never happened.
Dom told me there's a mix-up. You accidentally took my lunch. That's true?
Took your lunch?
Yeah, my lunch. A nigga hungry.
Yes, yeah. Bologna sandwich.
Bologna. It got cheese on it?
I couldn't imagine being an undercover cop listening to this dude's phone calls. At first, I would just think he was hungry as hell before realizing he was an actual drug dealer. Before Malcolm can even get to the car and deliver the bag, Dom calls him and says, "Hey, do I look like a DoorDash driver to you? I don't deliver sandwiches. Get the hell out of there." Remember how in Boys in the Hood, how that gang had to spin the block several times to get to Ricky? Well, this is 2015, and drive-bys are a little more, shall we say, sophisticated now. This dude had a whole tablet that's tracking the phone that Malcolm is using. I love this because it's not too far-fetched that criminals will update their methods with the times. Just look at how many dudes get shot going live on social media. Dom gives specific instructions to go to the house of an unknown guy and mention the boys club. He says that the guy will know what to do, and being eager not to die over these drugs, our trio heads straight there. Well damn, Dom sure does always have to connect on the women. That's 2 for 2 that he done put Malcolm onto something sexy. I don't even blame him for this other dude being here. Can't always be perfect. Turns out the guy they came to see isn't there, and these are his kids. They're welcoming as hell to be kids of a drug lord. These backpacking ass teens could be anybody. I guess that's the point. The drug kids are supposed to be kind of stupid and self-absorbed. They're kind of posers, just like our protagonists, but in a different way, since the son thinks he's a gang-affiliated rapper.
Paru? Crenshaw Mafia?
I'm just Malcolm.
That's a hood though, right? Right? Fuck crab ass niggas.
Kiersey Clemens tried her damnedest not to laugh, and I'm glad they left it in because it's hilarious. I haven't heard that much douche out of one bag in a minute. Comedy. I know one thing, this might be in the same city as The Wood and might have the same creator, but Malcolm is definitely not Mike, and Lily, played by Chanel Iman, is not apprehensive at all about getting to know Malcolm in a more, shall we say, biblical way. Her brother and the rest of Malcolm's crew inexplicably go to get something to eat because, you know, plot reasons. And as pretty as Lily is, she's just a little too comfortable for me.
I gotta pee.
Yeah, that's too much information for me. Especially when that's the very area that I'm trying to explore. That's like dropping some candy on the floor before you have a chance to eat it. At least wash it off first. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, our technologically sound drug dealer tracks down Diggy and Jib, thinking it's lunchtime, but all he gets in return is this waste of wisdom from El DeBarge here.
Let me tell you what's going down, all right? We're gonna order our food, and then you can order your lunch or whatever the fuck else, all right? Then we're gonna keep it pushing.
What follows is some great cinematography and a clever way to save time by interconnecting what's happening to Malcolm versus what's happening with his friends. And it's cool how it all meets in the middle. In the time it takes for the crew to get into it with the drug dealer, the brother to get shot, and to get chased by the police, Malcolm gets the drug stolen and used by Lily, gets thrown up on right before he slides in, and he's about to miss his interview for Harvard. It all culminates in a hilarious scene with Lily attempting to drive Malcolm to his interview while high, and then abandoning him to actually go pee for real this time. I mean, after all this, why not just add Grand Theft Auto to the list? This day can't get any worse, can it? It can, and it will, because you see, Malcolm has never actually met the guy he's going to interview with, and his decor is giving him bad vibes. Let's see, there's Dom, there's Lily, and there's, I never actually got the name of the brother, but there he is. That's right, Mr. Jacoby is not only the father of those future Fix My Life candidates, but he's also the drug boss of the entire organization. What are the odds? Malcolm makes the bold decision to tell him that he has his drugs, and I like how Mr. Jacoby just talks around that revelation without revealing a damn thing. He's played by the always reliable but never celebrated Roger Smith, who I recently talked about on the Deep Cover video. And it's amazing how well he can transition from a flunky to a boss without any effort. Dude owns this scene.
I didn't have a choice.
Oh, come on, Malcolm. Come on. You always have a choice, all right? You could have done a lot of things with that package. You're a smart kid. I'm sure you thought about all of them, but you chose to make the delivery for this dumb person because you thought it was what, in your best interest?
Looks like Gamite Yoda did well for himself at the Mission College. I'd love to see a movie of him and Big Brother Almighty as competing drug kingpins. That's right, I said Big Brother Almighty, not Gustavo Fring. Giancarlo Esposito is always going to be Big Brother Almighty to me. Breaking Bad be damned. I think the movie missed an opportunity with this boys club thing. Is it like an actual boys club where you get badges for the amount of drugs you sell or something? I feel like these are things that we need to know. It could be a whole other movie. It's here where the movie dope gets interesting. Jacoby tells Malcolm in so many words that if he can successfully sell the drugs, then he'll guarantee that he will get into Harvard. Oh yeah, there's also the threat of death, so there's that. So faced with his dreams versus his moral compass versus death, what do you think he does? Well, he and his friends sell the drugs, of course, but not in the traditional way that most dealers do. Dope changes gears and becomes an entirely new movie at this point because Malcolm and his friends get with a hacker who they met at band camp and use him to set up an online marketplace to sell the Molly that they have, so that it can't be traced back to them. The drugs can only be bought with Bitcoin, and they even changed the name to Lily once the video of Jacoby's daughter on the stuff goes viral. It's genius stuff, and nice to see a new take on a tired trope that's been done to death. Because how many times can you watch a movie about a drug dealer selling drugs on the street corner before it gets old? There's even some real world logic behind it, because as Malcolm puts it, they're just nerds, and nobody will suspect them doing anything outside of what nerds do. They set up shop at the school because nobody uses the science or the computer lab, but them. I can totally see this working in real life. Malcolm gets a little too deep into it though, because it starts to make him a little paranoid when Nakia comes back around. This might be the weakest part of the movie to me, because his relationship with Nakia doesn't get nearly as much time as it could have. The same could be said about his relationship with his mother. You barely see her. They're afterthoughts, but in a weird way, central to the plot, especially in this scene when Nakia tells Malcolm that Dom hit her up from jail and asked about him, and Malcolm accuses her of only showing up to get information about the drugs. Yeah, you almost forget that, oh yeah, this ain't his damn drugs. Nakia has no idea what he's talking about, so there goes my baby. There she goes. It's not just the paranoia getting to Malcolm either. He's tired of being constantly pushed around by Bloods always celebrating every time he gets some new shoes. He pulls the gun that up until this point, he had no real reason to have with him, but he's seriously been carrying it to school every single day. Even with this newfound power, it's still obvious that this isn't who he is, and it's admirable that he still maintains his manners in such a tense situation.
Please, just give me the bag.
Since he's just invented a new and advanced system to sell the drugs, Malcolm goes back to Jacoby to tell him just how he managed to pull it all off, which goes all the way over Jacoby's head. See, he's used to people selling drugs the old-fashioned way, so he's lost on all this stuff like Bitcoin, which is probably why it was easy for Malcolm's hacker to get into Jacoby's system and make it look like Jacoby was the one handling all the selling and profit. Haha, gotcha, bitch. Malcolm uses this as leverage to make sure that he gets into Harvard and goes back to his regular old life. He even makes an attempt to go to his senior prom, but did I mention that Nakia is a terrible human being? She stands him up to the prom, but shows up to his house to give him a speech about how he acted earlier.
That wasn't me.
Yeah, it was.
But it's not though. How the hell are you gonna tell this man who he really is? On top of all that, they had a conversation earlier about how Nakia missed her prom, but wasn't mad about it because she really only wanted to go to Six Flags the next day, and didn't. So I guess to give Malcolm the same experience, she buys 2 tickets to Six Flags for them to go, and tells him she'll be picking him up in the morning. This isn't romantic at all. The look on Malcolm's face is like, but bitch, I wanted to go to the prom. The women in this movie took a massive back seat compared to the women in The Wood. Well, at least we get to see Malcolm dance better than Mike did during the credits. Let's get to the grade. Words can't really describe how great the movie Dope is, but here's a bunch of them to tell you just that. The movie does a fantastic job of updating a quite frankly tired movie trend that has been done to death by this point, and flipping it upside down by telling the story from a point of view that's never used. The black geek and nerd culture is often overlooked in cinema because, like the movie Dope says, it's often conflated with being exclusively white. Highlighting it on the big screen not only made the movie come off as fresh and unique, but it also opened the door for new takes on the same old drug dealer and gangbanger tropes. Everybody in the movie is actually a good person who's pretending in some way. Malcolm and his friends are nerds who only sell drugs out of fear, not for financial gain. Dom was a good guy who let his insecurities take him down the wrong path and even lost the respect of a girl who used to like him for who he used to be. Jacoby went to Harvard for God's sakes, but realized that unfortunately, he could be more successful doing something illegal. Dope is a movie about posers who all have a somewhat valid reason to be in the position that they're in. The underlying message of the film is all about the choices you make. The music in the movie is top notch and full of 90s hip hop songs that would probably resonate more with somebody my age than somebody younger. I loved it though, and sometimes only watch it back just for the music. The women characters could have been fleshed out a little more and given more time, but considering all that's going on in the film, that can be forgiven. For Shamik Moore and Kiersey Clemens to be first-time actors, they also killed their roles, along with everybody else in the movie. Rick Famuyiwa hit it out of the park with the spiritual successor to The Wood. Although the movies are completely different, they both do a great job of capturing a snapshot of the black teenage life of their respective time periods. My grade for Dope is an A-. The movie is not just a hood classic, but a certified classic period, and required viewing no matter who you are. And that's it for this episode of the BlackTrack. As usual, let me know what you thought about the movie Dope in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And until next time, I'll holla at you.